Are you serious right now? Bronson Reed just crossed a line that should never be crossed in professional wrestling. What happened backstage at SmackDown wasn't just a warning, it was a threat. It was intimidation. It was a 330-pound bully targeting someone half his size and thinking he can get away with it just because he's bigger. And the fact that WWE cameras caught this and decided to air it tells me they're either completely tone deaf or they genuinely don't care about the safety and well-being of their performers anymore. Carmelo Hayes was just minding his own business. He was backstage, probably preparing for his match, getting in the zone, doing what every professional wrestler does before they go out and perform. And Bronson Reed, this absolute coward who we've already seen attack people from behind, who we've already established has zero honor or integrity, decided to corner him like a common thug and deliver what can only be described as a threatening message. And before any of you Reed defenders start typing your excuses in the comments, let me be crystal clear about something: there is no scenario, no circumstance, no backstory that makes what Reed did acceptable. You don't corner someone backstage and use your size advantage to intimidate them. You don't get in someone's face when they're vulnerable and isolated. You don't use fear and physical presence to send messages. That's not wrestling, that's bullying. That's toxic workplace behavior that would get you fired in any other industry. But let me tell you exactly what went down, because the details make this situation even more infuriating. According to multiple sources backstage, and we have the footage to prove it, Carmelo Hayes was in the hallway near the gorilla position, probably reviewing match notes or talking strategy with a producer. He was completely focused on his work, not bothering anyone, not starting any drama, just being a professional. Then out of nowhere, Bronson Reed appears. Not walking normally, not just passing by, approaching with intent. The camera catches Reed's face and you can see the aggression written all over it. This wasn't a casual encounter. This wasn't two colleagues bumping into each other. This was Reed specifically seeking out Carmelo Hayes for one reason: to intimidate him. Reed walks right up to Hayes, and remember, Hayes is about 5 feet 10 inches and maybe 210 pounds while Reed is 6 feet 0 inches and 330 pounds, and gets right in his face, invading his personal space, using every inch of that size advantage to make Hayes feel small and threatened. And then Reed starts talking, and what he says is absolutely chilling. "You better watch yourself, Carmelo. What happened to Braun Breaker? That could happen to you. That will happen to you if you keep running your mouth. I don't care how quick you think you are, how athletic you think you are, I will flatten you just like I flattened him, and there won't be anything you can do about it." Let that sink in for a moment. Bronson Reed just threatened Carmelo Hayes with physical harm. Not in a kayfabe "I'm going to beat you in our match" way, in a "I'm going to hurt you and you can't stop me" way. He referenced the vicious attack on Braun Breaker, an attack that we've already established was cowardly and excessive. He used that attack as a threat against someone else. This is textbook intimidation. This is workplace harassment. This is creating a hostile environment. In any other job, human resources would be involved immediately. There would be investigations. There would be consequences. But in WWE, they just film it and put it on television like it's entertainment. Carmelo Hayes, to his absolute credit, didn't back down. Despite being significantly smaller, despite being cornered, despite having every reason to be intimidated, Hayes stood his ground. He looked Reed right in the eye and said, "I'm not Braun Breaker. You catch me from behind like a coward, I guarantee you won't like what happens next. I'm not scared of you, and I'm not going to let you bully me." That is courage. That is what a real professional looks like. Carmelo Hayes refused to be intimidated even when he had every reason to be. He stood up to a bully twice his size and made it clear that threats weren't going to work on him. That takes guts. That takes heart. That takes the kind of backbone that defines true competitors. But Reed didn't walk away. Instead, he laughed in Hayes' face. He stepped even closer, if that was even possible, and said, "You think you're tough? You think standing up to me makes you brave? It makes you stupid. I'm giving you a chance to stay out of my way. Don't waste it." The sheer arrogance. The absolute disrespect. Bronson Reed genuinely believes he's untouchable. He thinks his size gives him the right to threaten whoever he wants. He thinks he can bully and intimidate and there won't be any consequences because WWE has never held him accountable for any of his actions. And that's the real problem here. This isn't just about one backstage confrontation. This is about a pattern of behavior that WWE has enabled. Bronson Reed attacked Braun Breaker from behind, no real consequences. He's been unnecessarily stiff and aggressive with multiple opponents, no consequences. He's shown complete disregard for the safety of others, no consequences. And now he's escalated to directly threatening people backstage, and I'm willing to bet there won't be any real consequences for this either. WWE is creating a dangerous precedent here. They're telling their entire roster that if you're big enough, if you're intimidating enough, you can do whatever you want. They're telling smaller performers like Carmelo Hayes that they have to just accept being bullied because that's the price of being in the business. That is unacceptable. Let's talk about Carmelo Hayes specifically for a moment because this targeting is particularly egregious. Hayes is one of the most talented young performers in all of WWE. He was a multiple-time NXT champion. He has charisma, athleticism, in-ring skills, and star quality written all over him. He's someone who should be protected and elevated, not used as a prop for Bronson Reed's bullying storyline. Hayes has worked hard to get where he is. He's paid his dues. He's had incredible matches. He's gotten over with audiences. He represents the future of WWE. And now he has to deal with this 330-pound problem who's decided to make Hayes' life miserable for reasons that still haven't been adequately explained. What exactly did Carmelo Hayes do to deserve this treatment? Did he attack Reed first? No. Did he talk trash about Reed in promos? Not that we've seen. Did he interfere in any of Reed's business? Absolutely not. So why is Reed targeting him? The only explanation that makes sense is that Reed is a bully who picks targets based on who he thinks he can intimidate. And that's what makes this so much more infuriating. This isn't a rivalry built on logical storytelling. This isn't two competitors who have legitimate beef with each other. This is a big guy targeting a smaller guy because he can. That's not compelling television, that's uncomfortable and problematic. The backstage reaction to this incident has been telling too. Multiple wrestlers reportedly witnessed the confrontation and several of them looked genuinely uncomfortable. Not, oh this is good drama, uncomfortable, this has gone too far, uncomfortable. When your own locker room is concerned about someone's behavior, that's a red flag that management should be paying attention to. Some wrestlers reportedly tried to intervene or at least position themselves nearby in case things got physical. That's how serious this was. That's how much legitimate concern there was that Reed might actually put his hands on Hayes. Think about that. WWE wrestlers were preparing to break up a real fight because they didn't trust Bronson Reed to keep things professional. And where was security during all this? Where were the agents? Where was management? Someone in authority should have stepped in immediately when Reed approached Hayes in that aggressive manner. Someone should have de-escalated the situation before it got to the point of direct threats. But instead, everyone just let it play out while the cameras rolled. That tells me WWE wanted this to happen. They wanted the confrontation. They're probably thrilled with the controversy and attention it's generating. They don't care that it makes their workplace look toxic or that it sets a terrible example. All they care about is creating moments for social media and getting people talking. Well, congratulations, WWE, we're talking. But we're not talking about how great your product is. We're talking about how you're enabling bullying. We're talking about how you're creating an unsafe work environment. We're talking about how you value shock value over the well-being of your performers. Let's also address the size disparity here because it matters. Bronson Reed outweighs Carmelo Hayes by over 120 pounds. That's a massive advantage. In a real fight, that weight difference would be absolutely overwhelming. Reed knows this. That's why he felt comfortable getting in Hayes' face like that. He knew Hayes couldn't physically do anything about it without risking serious injury. That's what makes this cowardly. Reed isn't targeting people his own size. He's not getting in Braun Strowman's face. He's not threatening Bobby Lashley. He's not cornering Omos backstage. No, he's going after guys like Carmelo Hayes who, while incredibly talented, are at a significant size disadvantage. That's the behavior of a coward, not a tough guy. And before anyone says size doesn't matter in wrestling, it does when we're talking about backstage confrontations. In the ring, with rules and referees and structure, a smaller wrestler can absolutely compete with a bigger one. But in a hallway, with no oversight and no protection, size and strength become huge factors. Reed is exploiting that advantage to bully people. The worst part is that WWE is probably going to turn this into a match at some point. They're going to book Carmelo Hayes versus Bronson Reed and act like it's a competitive rivalry. They're going to present it as a David versus Goliath story where Hayes has to overcome the odds. But the foundation of this feud is bullying and intimidation, and that leaves a bad taste. How is Carmelo Hayes supposed to look credible against someone who outweighs him by that much and has been portrayed as willing to seriously injure people? How are we supposed to buy Hayes having a chance when Reed's character is built on being an unstoppable force who attacks from behind and shows no mercy? WWE has backed themselves into a storytelling corner. If Hayes wins, it makes Reed look weak and undermines everything they've built with him. If Reed wins, it's just a bigger guy beating up a smaller guy, which isn't satisfying storytelling. Either way, this feud is problematic from the start because it's based on toxic behavior rather than legitimate competition. And let's talk about the message this sends to aspiring wrestlers. Young performers watching WWE are seeing that bullying and intimidation are rewarded with television time. They're seeing that being aggressive and threatening gets you attention and storylines. They're learning that size and fear are more valuable than skill and respect. Is that really what WWE wants to teach the next generation? Wrestling has always had larger-than-life characters and intense confrontations. That's part of what makes it great. But there's a difference between compelling heel behavior and actual workplace harassment. There's a line between playing a villain and being a genuine problem. Bronson Reed has crossed that line repeatedly, and WWE keeps rewarding him for it. The SmackDown locker room cannot feel safe right now. If Bronson Reed can corner and threaten Carmelo Hayes with no immediate consequences, who's next? Who else is going to be targeted? Who else is going to have to deal with Reed deciding they're his next victim? This creates an atmosphere of fear and uncertainty that's toxic for everyone. Performers should be able to go to work, do their jobs, and not worry about being physically threatened by a colleague. That's basic workplace safety. That's the minimum standard that should exist. But WWE has allowed Bronson Reed to create an environment where people have to constantly watch their backs. And you know Reed is loving this. He's probably backstage right now feeling powerful and untouchable. He probably thinks he's some kind of badass for intimidating someone smaller than him. But there's nothing tough about what he did. There's nothing impressive about using your size to scare people. That's not strength, that's weakness masquerading as strength. Real toughness is standing up to people bigger than you, like Carmelo Hayes did. Real courage is refusing to be intimidated even when you have every reason to be scared. Real strength is maintaining your composure and dignity when someone's trying to break you down. Carmelo Hayes showed more character in that 2-minute confrontation than Bronson Reed has shown in his entire WWE run. The social media reaction to this has been mixed, and honestly that's disappointing. Too many people are treating this like just another wrestling angle instead of recognizing the problematic elements. Too many fans are saying, oh, this is going to be a great feud, without questioning whether it should be a feud at all. We need to hold WWE accountable for the content they produce and the behaviors they normalize. Some people are defending Reed by saying he's just playing a character, or it's not real, it's entertainment. But the line between character and reality gets blurry in situations like this. When you're using real size advantages to create real intimidation in real backstage areas, you're not just playing a character anymore. You're engaging in actual threatening behavior. And even if it's just a character, WWE needs to be more thoughtful about what characters they're presenting. Do we really need another big guy bullies smaller guys storyline? Haven't we seen that 1,000 times? Can't we come up with more creative, less problematic ways to build feuds? What about a storyline where Carmelo Hayes earns Bronson Reed's respect through his skills? What about a rivalry based on competition rather than intimidation? What about literally any other direction that doesn't involve workplace harassment? WWE's creative team is supposed to be full of writers, surely they can come up with something better than this. Here's what should happen: WWE management should immediately address this incident. Nick Aldis or Adam Pearce should call both men into their office. There should be clear consequences for Reed's threatening behavior. There should be protections put in place for Hayes. And if they do have a match, it should be under circumstances that give Hayes a fair chance, like a steel cage where Reed can't run away, or a stipulation that protects Hayes from Reed's size advantage. But you know what's probably actually going to happen? Nothing. Reed will continue to threaten and bully. Hayes will have to constantly look over his shoulder. And WWE will act like this is all perfectly normal and acceptable. They'll book a match, someone will win, and they'll move on to the next storyline without ever addressing the fundamental problems with how this was handled. The wrestling business has a long history of locker room issues and toxic behavior. We've heard countless stories over the years about bullying, hazing, and intimidation. WWE should be working to create a better environment, not perpetuating the same toxic patterns. This is 2024, we should be past the point where size and intimidation are accepted as normal workplace behavior. Carmelo Hayes deserves better than this. He deserves storylines that showcase his incredible talents. He deserves rivalries that make him look like a star. He deserves to work in an environment where he doesn't have to worry about being cornered and threatened by someone twice his size. WWE needs to protect their performers, especially their up-and-coming stars who represent the future of the company. And Bronson Reed needs to face real consequences. Not storyline consequences where he loses a match and then moves on. Real consequences like suspensions, fines, or mandatory anger management. His pattern of behavior is unacceptable and it's time WWE stopped enabling it. If Reed can't control himself backstage, he shouldn't be backstage. This is WrestlingNewsCC, and I am absolutely disgusted by what happened on SmackDown. Bronson Reed's warning to Carmelo Hayes crossed every line of professional behavior. Drop your comments below and let me know if you think WWE is handling this situation appropriately or if they're enabling toxic behavior. Share this video because people need to understand that what happened wasn't entertainment, it was workplace intimidation. We need to hold WWE accountable for creating a safe environment for all their performers, not just the ones big enough to defend themselves. This cannot continue. Something has to change before someone gets seriously hurt.